right, here we go. What's up, Frank?
What's up?
You know what? I totally forgot about the intro video earlier. I forgot I can just hit live and it starts it for
Oh,
you. So I started it the old school way, but it's all good. We'll get through it.
yeah, no, and then right as you said that, like my kids are like, like right past me.
No worries, man. Hey, it's live. That's what happens in life. Live. I don't know.
Yeah. No,
One or the
one
other.
one ran past me and got instantly quiet. The other one who just slammed the door went to walk past me to get mad at the other one and then saw that I was doing this and just rolled his eyes, turned around and went back in his room.
That's hilarious. Hilarious. He's
They,
like, Dad, I can't even get mad right now because you're live on video.
that's exactly what it is. But hey, at least they get it.
What do you do, man? What do you do?
Yeah, no, I mean, you just keep it pushing, right?
Yes, sir. That's
So,
all you
so
can do.
what's up, man? What you been up
Not a
to?
whole lot, man. I got to share something with you, man. I didn't send you the photos because I didn't know if they would gross you out or not. But I got a cut on my leg last weekend, and strangely enough, I don't even know how I got the cut. It was probably just one of those things where I got scraped, and the time I was like, oh, that was weird, but it didn't really bother me that much. And then it progressively kept getting worse, and so tried to put some ointment on it and some band-aids on it, and then I had an allergic reaction to the band-aids and the ointment stuff that I put on it. So it got really, really bad. Ended up having to go to the doctor and get some antibiotics and all this stuff, but just crazy, man. I had to get a tetanus shot too because he's like, "When's the last time you got a tetanus shot?" I'm like, I couldn't even tell you. I have no idea. You
Dude,
know?
that's crazy.
Yeah.
So was it like, is it, I mean, I'm not trying to gross the listeners out, right? But
Yeah.
bad, like
I
big,
mean,
deep, like,
it's not that bad now. I'm looking at it now. It's not that bad. It's just really like very red and just where the bandage was and everything. It's just like this raw area right around the cut, and then the cut area is kind of scabbing up a little bit and cleaning up. So it'll be better. It'll be fine. But just a very freak weird situation, man. And the lesson I guess to be learned in that is just sometimes as a guy, we get nicked and cut and scratched, and we're like, yeah, whatever, I don't care. I got to keep moving, got to keep working. But serious shit can happen. Bottom line, I mean, I could have gotten a really, really bad infection. It could have gone south really quickly. So I'm glad I went to the doctor and at least got it checked out and everything.
yeah, well, people make the biggest mistake all the time. I got a couple of friends where they refuse to go to the doctor when they're sick. And I'm like, one, why not? And two, what are you paying for health insurance for if you're not even going to go?
Fair point.
You know?
Yeah, fair point
So,
for sure.
so, so man, good on you for going quickly, right? As I don't know about you, but I'm one of those people where like I don't want to go to the last possible minute
Right.
because I'm like, no, I'm fine. Like my finger could be like hanging on by like
Oh
a
yeah.
little piece of,
Yeah.
no, I'm good. It's gonna get better. I promise.
Right. Yeah.
So
Yeah. No, my leg's dangling off by a limb, and it's like it might be okay.
yeah, it'll get better. I can still
Yeah.
walk
But
on it.
well, and the thing was, I was like, well, maybe it just looks worse than it really is. But then it started getting really, really bad, and I was like, no, there's definitely something wrong here. There's definitely something I need to get checked out. So again, I'm glad I went, and now I'm on the mend. And thank you everybody who are sending me text messages and get well cards already. No, I'm just kidding. Nobody sent me a get well card, but a nice little text message to say I hope it gets cleaned up quickly.
No,
So
that's good. That's good, man. That's good. So, do you have
yeah,
any events this weekend then? Weddings or
I
anything?
did. Yeah, I did. So that was interesting, kind of navigating through those, but it was okay. No problems, no challenges. I did a wedding on Sunday with this couple, and anytime a bride at the end of the wedding tells you that it was amaze balls, you got to feel like you did a good job. Like I don't hear that phrase very often, but it sounds like it's a really good phrase. And I was happy about that. And the groom, it was kind of funny. The groom kept coming over to me, like he literally was like every 30 minutes he'd come over to me and be like, "Hey man, this is your 30-minute reminder that this party's kicking ass." I'm like, all right, sounds good, thanks, man. As long as you don't come back in 30 minutes and tell me otherwise, I think I'm doing the right thing.
Dude, that's awesome.
Yeah,
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 man. No, it's always nice to get like that validation of that you're doing the right things and that
yeah,
right because sometimes you look out and you see like a full crowd dancing. Sometimes you look out and you don't see a full crowd dancing. right? And you just don't know it, like all of it. Sometimes you question yourself, like,
Hmm.
is this a party group or am I actually like really killing it right now? And then the other weddings are like, am I a good DJ or is this just the dancers? You know what I mean? All these different
Yeah.
like thoughts go through your mind. So it's
Yep.
always nice to get that kind of stuff. Actually, today I ran out to get some lunch, and when I got back, my wife had told me that there was a thank you card up on my little desk that I work on for my day job.
Hmm. Oh,
And I get
nice.
upstairs, and it's a thank you card from a couple. But coolest thing, it was they literally sent it to me during their honeymoon
Oh, wow.
from Croatia.
Like they didn't even wait.
Yeah, no, and at first I thought, oh, they just got some postcards and just brought it back. No, like it's postmarked. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
From So I was like, gosh, that's like really nice to have people on their honeymoon, the
Yeah.
time you probably shouldn't be thinking about anything else
Hmm.
other than that person, to actually spend a moment, even just a quick moment, right? To write that little note on a postcard and send it to you was super
Right.
cool. So,
Yeah.
that
I
was
mean,
really nice.
just a testament to, the hard work you put in and making sure you're providing a good service for somebody, man. I mean, I think that's always good, you know.
Yeah.
And it
Yeah.
was funny. They put a little extra, I don't want to say stress, but a little extra pressure on me because they were like, we went to a wedding. It was so funny. They called me and they're like, we went to a wedding like 2 or 3 weeks ago, and here are all the things that we did not like about what happened at that wedding, and like listing. And I mean, it wasn't anything that crazy, you know what I mean? But sometimes it's just one of those things where you're like, man, I hope I really don't blow this one because they're like they're dialed in on what they don't want. But it was a good party. And to your point about the no dancing thing, like I used to let that bother me when I was younger, and then as I evolved and kind of paid more attention. I mean, I know there's a DJ out there somewhere that's going to argue with me about what I'm about to say, but at the end of the day, I honestly believe there are some groups that people are just not going to dance. I I know specifically of some DJs who, tout everybody dances at every one of my weddings. And I'm like, that's not true. And I know that's not true because I know people who have worked at those events with you who have said that's not true. And it's not necessarily the fault of the DJ if people are not dancing. More importantly, just create a fun environment. If that means people dance, great. But if that means people are not dancers but they still hear music they like, you still did your job.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, this week, so one of my weddings this weekend, Friday, there was a very big split among the guests, right? Half of them
Mm-hmm.
were, you know, religious in a way where they weren't going to dance, period.
Yeah.
And the couple let me know that ahead of time. Like I was prepared for it. They already had a smaller group, so I already knew going into it, like, hey, we're not going to get all X number of these people up clearly. So we're just going to work with what we get,
Yeah.
and we're just
Yeah.
going to hit it. And ended up being a great time. Both Friday and Saturday weddings for us went really well. Totally different groups of people, totally different like dance floor styles, right? Totally different music, which is always nice because there's always that group of weddings that you do every year where it's kind of par for the course with what they want to hear, and they want those whatever those regular quote unquote regular wedding songs are.
Yeah.
But both of the weddings we did this weekend were cool. They were allowed me to be creative among providing me with some suggestions that were not par for the course in the wedding world. So it was really
Nice.
nice. Um, yeah, yeah. So it was a good time.
What's going on with your Mets, man? I haven't even paid attention.
So we just got done with a really rough stretch on the West Coast, and we went 14-8 total against some of the top teams in baseball. So success, in my opinion.
Yeah,
you know,
absolutely.
um, of course, there's the sky is falling contingent of Mets fans, which are always going to be there because it's the Mets, and that's just what it is. But we got some good news today with DeGrom and Scherzer coming back soon, hopefully, and you know, I mean, things are until we're not in first place. Like I'm not gonna sky is falling yet.
That's fair. That's
Yeah,
fair.
but the Braves have won 12 straight,
Yeah, yeah, they've been killing it. And
which is
the
not good.
Phillies been on a tear too. They got rid of Joe Girardi. Good on them, and they've pretty much been winning ever since.
Yeah, they had 9 straight, and then they took a loss or two, and but overall, like they're playing a lot better.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, no, that's not fun for me. But you know what? Like we're still up, so I'll take
yeah.
it.
I don't
Yeah,
even
how
have
about your Red
anything good to
Sox?
say about the Red Sox other than they've been winning okay. They've been getting a little bit better. pretty bummed about the Celtics, man. I don't know if you follow the basketball stuff too much, man, but the game last night really kind of let me down. It's just amazing to me to see how many just poor how much poor ball handling they were doing. It just, I don't know, like at that NBA level, it just seems like you shouldn't be that bad at ball handling. I mean, I understand it moves fast, the game moves fast, and arid pass and this, that, and the other thing. I get that stuff, but just bouncing it off their feet left and right. I think a lot of it is just all this try to, dribble between your legs and around your back and over your head and all this stupid shit. Like, just go back to the good old school way of playing.
Yeah. Basketball is an interesting sport right now. It's like it's funny too, because it's almost like weddings, right? Like you have this like transition into this more current, quote unquote, form of basketball, just like you do weddings, right? So less people sitting down, eating full on meals, more like, all night grazing sessions with like much more dancing involved and
Yep.
a lot less of the formalities. You know what I mean? It's the same thing with basketball. It's kind of like progressed into something different. Yeah, I don't like it either. I miss some good hard nosed defense. I miss a lot. They used to talk a lot more. They could get away with a lot more. Like, everybody's so worried about people. I hate to say this because this is probably going to catch me a lot of junk, but it's sports. Like,
Yeah.
If you're taking it personally that you're getting crushed on the court and somebody's telling you about it, then maybe you shouldn't play basketball. Maybe maybe you need to toughen up a little bit. I don't know.
That's
I mean,
fair.
maybe it's just me. There's definitely spots in the world where feelings, should be considered. If you chose to step out on a basketball court or a football field or a sport where that's just part of it, like Michael Jordan wasn't going to let you off the hook.
No.
Just since he's behind you. He was going to tell you all game long that he's torching you and that you're terrible, in much more colorful language. Clearly.
Of course.
So, yeah, I mean, I don't know. Some of that stuff, it's just not my thing. Me and my wife argue about this all the time with my daughter. She plays travel basketball and pretty high level for high school around here. And, she always wants to like fire back at these girls who are like talking to her on the court. And Kirsten's like, that's not how we behave. And I'm like, that is absolutely how we behave. And you can throw a couple of expletives at them too.
Yeah. Yeah. Hey man, people were tougher when you could trash talk, for what that's worth. I don't know. I feel you. Well, I think we've taken up our allotted amount of time to talk about sports on our wedding show tonight. So we'll move forward. Right. So here's the deal. I'm really excited about tonight because one of my favorite topics to talk about is sales. And if you own a business, you have to do sales. And even if you have a sales department, you still have to know what the hell they're doing and know that they're doing it right. Sales is obviously an integral part of everything you do as a business owner. And so we're going to talk a little bit about that tonight. And we're going to dive into some pretty interesting concepts with our guests tonight as it pertains to sales. And I think we're going to get, not just us, but everybody listening and watching are going to get a lot out of this discussion tonight. So before we get started, as always, I'll read the bio of our guests and remind our watchers, our viewers, if you want to comment or ask a question, please be sure to do so. Obviously, if you're watching us on YouTube, if you are not a subscriber to our YouTube channel, we ask that you do. And again, feel free to jump in the comments and let us know who you are, where you are, and why you are. And just a real shameless plug thing real quick. One of my good longtime DJ friends, Eric Wenning, out of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. It's his birthday today. So don't know if he's watching, but I still want to give him a shout out and say happy birthday to him today. So that being said, let's dive into it, right? All right, so tonight's guest, Chandler Walker. Chandler started his entrepreneurial journey after graduating from the University of Nevada Reno with a degree in biochemistry and foregoing a medical pathway to pursue a brick-and-mortar wellness facility. Those are two different things. Very two different things. And I even looked at it and it said foregoing and I said forging. Anyways, foregoing. He then pivoted to an online health practice a year before the COVID lockdowns. After scaling both businesses to the seven-figure level, yes, you heard that right, the seven-figure level, and doing 3,000 to 4,000 sales consultations, Chandler was frustrated with the way sales were taught. He was tired of the old school objection handling, aggressive tactics, and salesy attitude taught by most sales trainers. So he looked back at what he was doing, combed through all of his notes, and created Compassion Conversations. I like that. Compassion Conversations. A therapeutic-driven, psychological-based sales system centered around compassion and care. Chandler has taught over 3,000 people his system of compassion conversation and has the goal to change and redefine the landscape of sales altogether. Chandler also invests regularly in the crypto market and bought your I don't even know how to say this. I'm terrible. Ethereum, is that right? Ethereum?
Yeah, I think so.
I'm so terrible. Ethereum, when it was $15,
oh my gosh,
20,000% increase, turning $250 into $50K. Look at this guy, making money left and right. I love it. All right, without further ado, let's bring him on to join us. Chandler, welcome, buddy.
What's up, guys? Happy to be here. Super excited to chat sales and everything in between and crypto, whatever else comes about tonight.
First and foremost, let me apologize to you for butchering up that bio. Usually I do a little bit better than that, but I was not on my game tonight. I'll be the first to admit it.
You win some, you lose some. And so maybe this
Fair
is the one you lost.
Fair point.
So I got to know. I got to know before, because this is just for all those listeners out there. Is crypto going to rebound? Because it's dipping right now.
Oh yeah, like for me right now, we're at these bottom levels. Like I'm scooping it up, and my philosophy is like this: everybody wants to FOMO at the top, and that's when I'm selling, and everybody wants to sell at the bottom when they're panicking, and that's when I'm buying. And that's like the wealth cycle. You take smart money takes the money away from the people who don't necessarily know what's going on. So for me, yeah, it's like anywhere from 30K down to like 14. I'm in. Let's buy this game. I mean, we can scoop up. So this is like me buying Ethereum at $15. It's like the golden opportunity that most people will be too afraid to tackle.
So what's the 2 or 3? I know this is a totally different thing than what we're talking, but okay. I just got to know, because it's like it's been all over my Facebook today. People just like buy the dip. What are the 2 or 3 cryptos that you would tell people to invest in if they wanted to invest right now?
Yeah, I think for regular people, the 2 I would say are buy Bitcoin and buy Ethereum. Not financial advice here. I'm not a doctor. I can't tell you where your belly button is, but I can tell you kind of where it's located. So what I'm saying is, if it were me and I was in someone's shoes and I didn't know what I was doing, I would be buying 60% Bitcoin and the rest Ethereum. Because then that sets you up for, say, Bitcoin rebounds up to 100K. You just made 5 times off your money from where it's at right now. Say Ethereum goes from 1K to 10K. You just made 10 times your money just investing in those 2 little things.
Love it.
We can just stop right now with that, right?
There you go.
I think Chandler froze up for a second there. Oh, there he is. He's back. He's back with us. Yep. So, man, that's some good advice right there, right? All right. So
I had to.
Yeah. So one of the things that you brought up, Chandler, as we were talking before, is this concept of detaching from the need to sell, and I love that thought process. Share with our listeners and our viewers a little bit about your approach to that process, because detaching from the need to sell, I love that.
Yeah, when you think about detaching from the need to sell, you kind of think about human dynamics. And this is like if you go on Tinder and you just like start texting people, everybody's going to swipe away. You want to get people to swipe towards you. And so we have to understand the dynamics of human relationships. If I come in there with commission breath and I'm attached to the sale and I want it and I'm asking you and I'm really like begging for it, you're going to push away and you're not going to want it as much. It's like I had an experience at a used car dealership a long time ago. I'm sitting there looking at the cars. The guy comes out and he says, "What can I do to get you to buy today?" And I'm like, maybe ask better questions. I don't know. I'm not sure what to do. I don't know what to do with my hands right now. And so that's what we want to avoid. We want to put ourselves in a place where I get on the call and I don't care. Like I've spent time before the call thinking about it, moving myself into a neutral pathway and moving myself away from the need and into the concept that I'm here to serve this other human being. I'm here to ask this person questions, identify what the real problem is, and help them understand and see themselves in the solution. And then when they say they want to buy and they actually want it, I tell them, well, maybe you shouldn't do this. I mean, why would you want to do this? So I'm pushing them away so much that by the end of it, they're like, for the love of God, dude, just let me buy this thing. And they want it really bad.
I love that. And you know what? I think it's really key to think about the important thing that you said there, or at least what I feel like is the most important thing you said there, which is I'm here to serve these people, whoever they are, that reach out to you for the thing that it is that you do. And I think people miss that. I think people think this is what I do and I want to do it for whoever, my way, the way that I want it done, the way that I think it should be done. And people totally miss the point of you're supposed to meet your client at their needs, not convince your client to be meeting you at yours, right? And so I love that change in mindset, because like you said, traditionally everybody just wants to push the sale, and I love the way that you kind of flip that on people.
Yeah, it's great, because then when people get into an interaction with you, their sales resistance, which is usually like this high, it's like a brick wall, goes down, and all of a sudden they can look over it and they're like, okay, maybe this guy isn't a jerk. Maybe he's not just here to sell me. And they lean in, and they lean in deeper and closer and closer and closer. And as you lean out and lean away and focus on not wanting it and asking questions, solving those problems, and telling them maybe they shouldn't buy and stuff like that, it puts them in this place to where they don't understand how to interact in sales in this situation, because it doesn't seem salesy anymore. It seems like my concept here is what I call the smart dummy. They're like, oh, look, Chandler's just he's a dummy. He doesn't really know me. He's trying hard though. He can't be really trying to sell me. And so it moves you in this dynamic to where they really believe you care, and they might believe maybe you're not very good at sales, which drops their guard.
Yeah, that's a great point there. I actually had a very similar situation today, and I was talking to a couple about an event coming up in October, and great conversation. They asked me all the right questions. I asked them all the right questions. We got to kind of the end of the conversation, and sort of to your point, I don't really ever ask for the sale. And again, I know some salespeople will tell me, oh, that's terrible. You should always ask for the sale, blah, blah, blah. But, I was like, we were kind of done, and I was like, all right, let me know if you need anything else. And they're like, oh, wait a minute. Are you going to send us a contract? I'm like, do you want me to send you a contract? I didn't want to be presumptuous, but if you'd like me to, I'll absolutely be happy to do that. So it's interesting to hear you say that, because I feel like I was kind of diving into that a little bit today without even knowing it.
Yeah, I think it's huge. And I'll do the same thing. And I think that's super important in that aspect. Instead of getting to the end and being like, so you ready to go? Let me assume the sale, Visa or MasterCard, or the idea, if they cry, they buy. You move into this idea of you're done. Hey, that's all I have for today. What do you want to do from here? And then people are like, hold on, can I buy this thing? Well, I don't know. Is that what you want to do? It's your choice. And so it changes the whole dynamic, which I think is incredible.
Yeah.
So let me ask you a question about this a little bit. Like, what made you identify this as a pathway to gaining more sales, right? Because this is the complete opposite thing from like what everybody tells you. So what was that thing? What was that light bulb moment? Or what was it that you did that kind of made you identify, wait a minute, I can take a different approach to this and have more success? What was that thing?
Yeah. So originally, I myself, I am an obsessive biochemist. Like, I get obsessed with things and processes when they frustrate me. And so we had our first brick and mortar business, which was a health-based business. And so the idea was to help people in 6 pillars of wellness: mental health, social health, sleep, nutrition, fitness, habits. The price point was fairly high. I think originally it was like $1,500. And then after that, it was like $3,200. And we kept pushing it up. And I had to learn how to sell this thing to consumers who didn't see it, who saw it as there was a cost associated with it. And so as I was going through it, I was hiring sales trainers, and they were like, you gotta push them. You gotta pressure them. You gotta be a little aggressive at the end. And the call doesn't start until objections. And I was like, okay, number one, I started this business to like help people, and now I'm manipulating them. So I feel like a fraud. And now I just don't know what to do with my life. So I started looking at the mental health side of things we did in that business. I was like, okay, what if I took the concepts of cognitive behavior therapy, motivational interviewing, acceptance commitment therapy, and I took all of these real psychotherapeutic concepts and I put them in a sales process. And so I started moving that stuff over, and I was like, all right, this might work. And then I started getting on calls with people, and I was like, you know what? I don't feel so pressured. I'm not really pushing people anymore. I'm not trying to get the close. At this point, I'm just studying and practicing. And all of a sudden, my close rate started going up. And then I noticed something. I was like, you know what? If I sit here and I just kick my feet against the chair and I don't even care, and I'm like smoking a cigar while talking to someone on the phone, they wanted a lot more. I was like, there's no pressure here. This is way better, and this is way easier. They like me now. And that's that moment when I realized, you know what? Traditional.
I think we might have lost him for a second.
And removing that aspect of the sale, and people.
I think we lost you for a second there, Chandler.
Oh no!
You're back now. Well, maybe just hit that last little part. That I think that was the only thing we missed, was that last little part. If you remember where you were at.
Yeah, basically what I kind of realized was we put ourselves in this fake facade. We put ourselves in this environment where we have to pretend like we sell. I have to sit here and read this script like this. Hello, how are you doing today? Okay, good to me. Okay, I got the rapport. Okay. And we have to get away from that. Just throw the script away and be like, hey, I'm going to be me and I'm going to get on this call and I'm going to work to help and serve this human being to see if I can solve their problem, ask them good questions, connect the dots to their past, find points of failure, figure out where success is, and then present them exactly what I can do. And once I remove the pressure and recognize the process as a human process of connection, that's what changed the game for me.
Interesting. Wow. I think sometimes people in sales don't always stop to think that just because you offer a service or a product, it doesn't mean that you are the solution for the person on the other end of the call. And that is I think that's a tough thing to address as a business owner, because you want to feel like you're the best for everybody kind of a deal. But the reality is sometimes you're just not. And I think that something that I heard in what you were saying about, being comfortable and having a conversation and just no pressure, just a relaxed environment, it really lends to, and I talk about this so much that people probably get sick of hearing me talk about it, but it's because I still don't feel like it's sunk in yet, is the old business philosophy of people doing business with people that they know, like, and trust. And you're creating that opportunity to happen when you're not robotically regurgitating a script, or you're not diving in for the sale. I understand some people have high pressure demands because maybe they work for a company and they have sales quotas they have to meet and this, that, and the other thing. But for a lot of us in this industry, you have the luxury of not being under such great pressure that you can have a little bit more fun with it, and you can create this feeling of all the things that you said, of just creating this feeling of like, hey, let's just have a conversation. Let's find out if we even connect in the first place. Because if we don't even connect, it doesn't matter what I sell.
Exactly. And what you're saying is perfect, because when someone begins to know, they know you, and you have touch points even before the sale, then they begin to like you, and then they trust you. And what does that do? That removes fear, the biggest primary driver to why a human being won't purchase from you. It removes uncertainty. I don't know if this will help me. And it removes doubt. And once you remove the fear, uncertainty, and doubt, now the human being on the other side sees you as a leader and someone worth following. And even more interesting, when we work with sales teams, because we've worked with big sales teams in like real estate and some of these more higher pressure environments, even like insurance. I mean, imagine cold calling people 300 times a day. In those environments, what's really interesting is if they focus on this kind of stuff in the relationship, the person who doesn't buy comes back and buys when they're ready. And then what happens is these reps all of a sudden have this snowball impact of people coming back again and again and again. And they create this magical pipeline out of thin air of people who are coming back. So now their quotas go from, I don't need to make 5 sales this week cold. I have 3 of them already who showed up on Monday and were ready to go when I followed up on them.
Yeah, no, I love that. And you touched on such an important part of the sales process as well, as understanding, number one, understanding what that process is, and then understanding that the way you ask your questions and the way you direct your conversation will help you discover where this person is in the buying process. I mean, if all they're doing right now is doing research and that's all in their mind they think they're doing, there's usually nothing you can tell them to make them buy. They're not ready to buy yet. So I think it was cool that you said that.
Yeah, exactly. And I think to that point, one of the most important things you can do when selling or making sales is to connect with people before you even speak to them. So if you can get someone in a Facebook group, if you can send someone a little video of you talking through your stuff, if you have some sort of like little sales letter or something, anything of you showing and talking about what you do, the more touch points you have. And I think Dan Kennedy, maybe it was Dan, someone who's a really good copywriter, said, you have 7 or 8 touch points before you talk to another human being, you've already established that know, like, and trust factor, and you've already began to remove that fear, uncertainty, and doubt.
And I think one of the really key things too, when you start talking about building that trust and that trust factor with people is being able to listen to them, right? When you're talking about trying to build a relationship, build a rapport with somebody that's focused around you solving their problems or you helping giving them solutions, you really have to be able to listen very well. I personally, for my day job, we call it active listening. Me and David talk about that all the time on this show. It's something that I feel strongly about. But you talk a little bit about it differently. You talk about becoming a level 5 listener. Can you explain that a little bit to us and what that means to you?
Yeah, for sure. So there's basically 5 levels of listening. There's level 1, which is basically ignoring people. They're talking and you literally just don't even pay attention. Don't give them the time of day. They get nothing. Then there's level 2, which is like pretend listening. And that's when,
Oh man, that was about to be good.
so that's like, not, that's pretend. I'm pretending to listen, which is basically I'm listening, but I'm only listening to respond with my rebuttal. So someone says like something about politics and your only response rather than listen to what that human being said was, you're stupid, you're wrong, I don't believe you, here's why. And so then the next level is level 4 listening, where I'm actually listening, I'm actively listening, so active listening, and I'm paying attention to what they say, I'm asking questions, I'm actually involved in the conversation. But what most people don't step into is level 5 listening. And what that is it's an empathetic understanding of what they're talking about. And that means removing my own personal bias, stepping outside of my own brain, my own heart and soul, and stepping into theirs. Actually asking yourself in the conversation, why did this person say this? Asking them why they said it, trying to understand their model of the world, where they came from, and how they came to the conclusion of the decisions and reasoning behind what they're saying today, and then using that understanding to speak with them at such an intrinsic level that they think you know them better than they know themselves.
You literally just took me from like Padawan Luke listening all the way to Jedi Master Luke listening with that. That's an amazing thing to hear, because that's probably the one piece of listening, and I've never heard anybody talk about it. So it's awesome to hear. That's the one point of listening that I've never tried to do, which was totally like remove Frank from that conversation and try to be as much that person as possible, is a really interesting way of going about thinking about having those conversations. So what is the one or two things that you could tell somebody that they could do to help them attain that level 5 listening? What's the way that you're going to dive into that customer or that person that you're talking to?
Yeah, I think the best way to talk about it is something I talked about a little bit ago, and that's being the smart dummy. It's understanding and recognizing that you can't assume what that human being is feeling. You can't assume what that human being just said, or you can't assume that you know. So when the person says, hey, I want to lose weight, for example, it's not, okay, cool, how much do you want to lose? It's, well, hold on, tell me a little bit, why do you think you want to lose weight? What's going on there? You want to move to understand the deeply held insecurities behind why this human being wants what they want. Why do they want to fit in this dress? It's not so they can look good and fabulous. It's so they don't look disgusting and terrible. And these are real words that we've heard from people. So we need to move into that understanding. And then once we step into that deep layer with another human being and they give you those deep reasonings, you work to connect the dots. Like, how long have you felt this way? Why do you feel that? What's going on here? Why does this happen? It's a lot of questions. It's why. It's basically putting yourself to a place to where you say, I don't know anything. I'm a dummy. So can you help me understand what you mean behind this?
Wow. Yeah, I love that idea of going, that deeper level of question asking, and that that approach of, it's so great how the example you used was so great, because I think we probably all maybe obviously not had the weight loss conversation, but we've all been in that situation where, hey, I want to lose weight. Okay, that's great. Here's how we can help you lose weight, without even knowing why, that person wants this. Wow, that's so deep.
Yeah, I think it's powerful, because then you put yourself in a real position to where another human being will confide in you things that they've never told anybody. They don't tell people. They don't talk about this stuff. As humans, and as we grow up, we're taught that any sort of insecurity you have needs to be held deep inside, and you don't talk about it because you look weak or stupid. So if you help that person look strong for what they're saying and help them tell you the deeply held insecurities they have, and can help allow them to confide in you, and you don't judge them, that puts you in this new level with this human being. It puts you in a place to where now they know, like, and trust you, but they respect you.
A little bit of internet issues here again. All right, Chandler, I think you're back. Sorry, we keep kind of losing you a little bit on the internet there, but that's okay. It's not a problem. I think there's always going to be somebody that's going to say things like, well, this sounds like it takes a lot of time. I don't know if I have that much time to invest in this. Or another thing that I think that we all are guilty of is distractions. These guys, the distractions all over the place. Are there some things you can address when it comes to that takes too much time thought process, and then maybe the distractions as well?
Yeah, for sure. When you're learning this kind of communication strategy, it really doesn't take a lot of time. It's just an understanding of how to communicate in a new way. So when we teach it to people, we put people into either a 6-week or a 9-week curriculum. And by the end of it, they've achieved a certain level of mastery to be able to handle a conversation and do this on their own. And it's because what we do is we teach it in frameworks. So we have a 9-step framework. They go through each framework, they submit their work, we look at what's going on, and by the end of it, they're ready to go. And so it's little micro wins. And so I don't think this is a process to where it would take someone like 150 hours or a year to get through. It's a process of learning, number one, how to detach from the need to sell. So we work through exercises and ultimately how to recognize that and how to be there to serve, how to achieve level 5 listening, which is how to ask questions to find the cognitive purpose to connect the dots, which might sound complicated, but it really only takes a certain pattern of understanding. Why did you say that? Why would you say that? What's going on here? Why did that happen? Okay, how long has this been going on? It's questioning like a detective. And then the last piece is becoming a challenging leader. So that way, when someone says something that doesn't make sense, you can challenge them on it appropriately and empathetically. Someone says, well, hold on, I don't think I understand. I don't know. Can you tell me a little bit more? Or we're on a budget. And instead of saying, haha, yeah, everybody's on a budget. Oh, hold on, tell me a little bit about that. What's your budget look like? And if someone says, me and my husband, and the husband isn't on with you, well, how do you guys work together? Are you two in alignment on this decision? Are you in alignment in how to make these decisions? Because alignment is what is required for success. And alignment for me means you, him, and me. If the three of us aren't in alignment, well, I'm not ready and willing to bet on your failure. So we need to be able to put people into these positions to where we can follow those 3 simple steps and those 3 simple strategies that gets them to be able to adopt this process in a minimal amount of time.
So you're talking about being a leader, right? Being a challenging leader. So can you let's just back up real quick on that. Define exactly what being a challenging leader means, because that to me, from the world that I come from, right? Challenging leader sounds like something that somebody I wouldn't want to work for, right? Like I want somebody to like push me to get better, but challenging me all the time seems like that would not be something I want. But I know that's not what your intention for the statement is. So explain what challenging leader means to you.
Yeah, basically, so challenging leadership in our model is being able to ask people difficult questions from an understanding that they appreciate you for asking these questions. So when you think about a leader who's a jerk, they're like, why did you do this? What were you thinking? But a challenging leader from our concept would say, hey, what's going on here? Can you explain the process that happened? And as you notice, when I move into challenging leadership, I drop my tone, I stutter purposely because I need to put myself in a place where I move a little bit down a peg. I don't want to be above them. I don't want to be aggressive. I almost want to be below them in that environment. And so when we move through the challenging leader concept, what we're doing is challenging things that will become objections early on. And so, for example, when someone starts talking about finances or budget, a lot of people are afraid to talk about that. So for us, when someone says, hey, we're on a budget, it's not, oh yeah, I totally get it. Everybody's on a budget and move on. It's, yeah, I get it. I understand that you're on a budget. Would you be simply talking about that a little bit? Let's kind of figure out where you're at. Because if I understand where you're at, I won't quote you something that's ridiculous and you can't.
I think we got lost in the internet world again there with Chandler. Frank, you're still on with me? I think you're muted.
Yes.
Okay.
No, I'm here. Yeah. Nope. Sorry.
Yeah, I think we may have lost. Let me see if I can get him back in with us. Yeah.
I think I'm here now. I don't know what's going on.
There we go. Yeah, we can hear you. We just can't see you.
I don't know what's going on. It keeps cutting in and out. It's crazy.
The internet, man. Sometimes it just doesn't want to cooperate. Here, let me bring this in. There we go. Yeah, let's go with that. And I'm going to get this other one out. See if that works. Maybe. I don't know. It's not cooperating. There we go. I think you're back now, Chandler.
Okay, I moved my resolution to the lowest possible. So, and look at me, I'm huge now.
There we go. Yeah, you look great, man. You look great.
Yeah, look at me on camera.
So yeah, so sorry we lost you for a second there, and you were definitely nailing that about the becoming the challenging leader and kind of answering questions and approaching. I think when we lost you, it was kind of on that a little bit on that topic of somebody says to you, oh, we're on a budget, and kind of the answer instead of is, yeah, everybody's on a budget. Sort of more like, hey, is that something we could talk about? Is that something we can dive a little bit into so we can offer you something that will fit within that budget instead of, offering you something way out of your budget?
Yeah, exactly. And so in the challenging leadership concept, we can talk about things that most people will glance over budget. They won't talk about it. They won't get deep into it. They'll just give them a package and say, hey, here's what we can do. How does that sound? For me, we understand their finances to a deep enough level to where we know what they make, we know what they take home, we know what the credit situation looks like, we know what they have available. So by the time we get to the end, we can make a customized pitch and give them a customized solution to specifically what they need. And so I think if someone in this situation is afraid to talk about money, it's more often than not your own insecurity with money. And we have to get past that in order to be able to be effective business owners. Because if no one's willing to talk about money, no one's going to be willing to give you money. So by being the only person who will talk about it, you can be the only person who can pitch them exactly what they need. And the same idea presents itself with when you think about someone's spouse. Often the spouse objection becomes a big problem. But when you can bring that up early on, like, hey, I noticed you talked about your husband a little bit. Talk to me. Where's he at in this? Is he excited for this? Is he excited about spending money on this? Are you kind of like behind the scenes just wrangling and making stuff happen? Or what's going on here? And they'll tell you like, oh yeah, he's kind of there, but he's not really paying attention. Okay, well, I mean, maybe he should be paying attention here, because if you two are in alignment, I mean, this is the circle of trust, aren't you? Aren't you building trust right now? Aren't you trying to maintain trust? Yeah, we are. Okay, well, trust means that you and him are in alignment, and me, because I can't ethically give you anything if you two aren't on the same page. So I just got through that objection without having to attack him about it, without having to say you can't make decisions by yourself and be a total jerk about the situation.
Frank, were you about to say something? I didn't want to cut you off.
Oh no, I thought you were going to pick it up.
No, I was going to say I really like that. I like that way of handling it and approaching it. It sounds so much better. I think one of the areas that in our industry people deal with a lot is getting so dialed in and focusing into having like, this is my package, this is my pricing, blah, blah, blah. And not realizing that sometimes you could literally be losing a sale over $100, and if you've got a, $2,000, $3,000, $4,000 sale and you're possibly losing it over $100 because you didn't have a conversation like this, then that's on you. That's not really on the client. I mean, this approach allows you the opportunity to have that conversation and, really just approach it better. I think one other thing, and this is something that people have said to me before, so I'm going to pose this question to you because I think your answer will be very valuable. But several times people have posed a question to me, well, I'm afraid to start asking them about budget because I feel like they're immediately going to think in their brains, how much money can this person get out of me? And I really think that's already a negative approach to think about it. But what are your thoughts on that a little bit if somebody feels like that's a challenge that they can't overcome as the salesperson?
Yeah, that's a good question. And I think what you have to do is when you're speaking about things that people don't want to talk about, you have to put it in their best interest. And so if we're going to approach budget, if I say, hey, bro, how much do you make? It's not going to come off that great. But if I say, hey, so in order for me to kind of figure out the best package that's going to work for you, what I really like to do is understand where you're at financially. So that way I don't pitch something or I don't give you something that's just out of control and ridiculous and nobody gets anything. I can actually put something together that's really going to make sense for you and me, and everybody wins. Is that okay? Does that sound fair enough? And the way I drop my tone there, it's very low, it's not aggressive, and I'm putting it in their best interest. This is for you. And then they're a lot more likely to say, yeah, okay, I'd be open to that. That sounds great. And then they'll usually tell you a lot of people have never done this. A lot of people just give me this outlandish package that I can't afford, whereas I could have made something work. And so by understanding that and approaching it into a way to where it's in their best interest and not being a jerk about it, you can pretty much talk about anything. And if you do this right, you can say horrible things to people and it would sound okay, which I'm not recommending that you do, but I'm saying that if you can drop your tone and put things in people's best interest, they will do what you want them to do. And disclaimer, please don't be manipulative with it, but this is kind of how you talk about hard things with anybody, really.
Yeah, you know what? I find that really interesting. I worked with a person for a very long time who intentionally would drop their tone and volume when they were about to have a hard conversation with somebody, because not only did it make that person be more comfortable with them, but it also forced them to listen and not speak over them, which allowed that person to get their whole statement out or point or whatever it was. So I really find it interesting that you use that technique as well, especially in the sales world, because that was a little bit more in like, I'm your leader and here's what I want you to do and talk to you differently. But it's still doing the same thing, right? Like in the end, the goal outcome is to have somebody, to build that relationship where somebody is now investing in you or doing something for you or with you or however. So I find it really interesting that you do that. Are there other like tricks to the technique of talking to people? Just like you said, where you drop your tone, are there other things that you do or that you can suggest for people to do that will help them start to build that rapport and that trust?
Yeah, I think the first step is establishing that level 5 listening. So you have that empathetic understanding of their situation. Then the next step is, before you drop your tone and you start moving into those techniques, is to recognize kind of where they're coming from so you can put it in their best interest. And that's the problem, I think, with a lot of people in leadership. They don't think about the other person to put the situation in their best interest. It's just like, hey, do this because they said so, versus, hey, so can I talk to you about something real quick? I asked a question. I dropped my tone. I stuttered a little bit. I look like a bumbling idiot, which is what I want. So they'll listen to me. Let's talk a little bit about what happened over there. And this would be in like a leadership position in management. So I noticed that so-and-so, or that this thing didn't work, and that thing kind of just derailed. Can you tell me a little bit about what happened? So that I sound genuinely curious and like I'm trying to solve a problem, versus, hey, you screwed up and you need to tell me what's going on here.
Yeah, I think that is so slick to me to take that approach to make people to give people that sense of like comfort by, like you said, but you're almost putting, and you said it earlier, you're almost putting yourself below that person and letting that person lead, and you're asking them to lead the conversation in a way that allows you to support whatever your point is behind it. So I love that.
Yeah, I think it's important. And I think one of the things that we think about too is like, in order to influence someone else, you have to first be influenceable. And so by being influenceable myself, by moving into their brain and stepping into their heart and soul and their mind, I can now influence another human being at another level. And it doesn't have to be this alpha battle. It's not about like fighting with each other. It's about the person who understands human behavior and dynamic at a level to where you don't even recognize you're being influenced.
I love that. Yeah. Frank, I'm going to go to a quick question here from one of our viewers, Welvin. By the way, Welvin, I think he's on just about every show all the time, every week. So we love having him on there. I was monitoring our Facebook group because for some reason the Facebook comments are not coming through on our chat here. So I'm glad I went over there and looked at that real quick. So going to go back a little bit here, just real quickly, Chandler. And Welvin says, I do find with some couples, I talk solely with the bride or solely with the groom. They do seem to steer it that I should only be talking to them. Is asking about being all aligned a way to remedy this?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think when you only talk to one party, which is common in this industry, you can say, hey, I think it's really important that as you build a life together, that you two are in alignment in your decisions, in alignment in what you're doing, in alignment. I mean, you agreed to get married, right? And he wants to do this. So I think the best scenario is to make sure all parties are together in alignment and can push forward and ultimately make a decision that benefits everyone. Because if you make those decisions, you build trust. As you build trust, you build a stronger relationship. As you build a stronger relationship, what you're building becomes a rock solid foundation. And that's kind of what you want, isn't it? So now it's in their best interest, right? And they want to make that relationship. They're about to get married. They want this thing to be a rock solid foundation. And so as I put it that way, now they move into a place to be like, you're right. We should be making these decisions together.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Yeah. Well, then good stuff right there, man. That's some good stuff. Thank you very much for that question. One other thing that I'm just thinking about right now is this concept, and I love it to death, but I think you hit the nail on the head when you say it's almost, and Frank, I think you said this earlier too, it's almost a complete 180 degrees of what a lot of sales gurus and a lot of sales people will suggest, teach, preach, sell, whatever. Let's say maybe just one or two easy wins that people could get to not like go from 0 to 100 with this, but just kind of put your feet in the water, make sure the water is warm, kind of feel a little bit better before you make this whole shift in how you do things. What are maybe like 2, 3, whatever, just a couple things that you could think right off the top of your head that would help somebody feel this out without not 100% converting to it yet if they're not ready, if that makes sense.
Yeah, for sure. I think the number one thing you can do is ask strategic questions. So if someone says, I want this, it's not, okay, we can give it to you. It's, well, tell me a little bit about why you want it. What makes this important to you? Well, it's important because of that, because of this. Oh, okay. That I can understand that. Why is that important to you? Like, why right now? Why in this moment are you doing this? Oh, because we're committed to each other, because blah, 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 whatever. Okay. Well, yeah. I love it. I love where you're coming from and where you're going with everything. So tell me a little bit about what that really means to you. So just ask questions upon questions upon questions to essentially dig deeper and a little deeper and a little deeper to find the core understanding behind what's going on. What is the real reason this human being's in here with you? It's usually to solve a deeply held insecurity or to solve something going on in their life. Obviously, they're making this commitment to another human being in this environment. So once you can understand why that commitment really exists and the deep reasoning behind it, you can connect the dots to the past. And then you just ask more questions. How long have you been thinking about this? How long have you been together? How long has this been kind of brewing? And as you connect the dots, now you can understand what's going on, the why, you can understand the past, you can understand the reasoning. And now you put yourself in a place to where you can essentially pitch the perfect solution for them. And that's all you have to do.
Awesome. Thank you for that. Very good stuff. Well, I know we're coming close to the end here, and before we get too much further, I know that you had mentioned in our conversation ahead of time about a 9-step framework to selling without manipulation and aggressive tactics. Now, that's something that people can access at your. You have a website for that, right?
Yeah, they can just go to 9step.cultureofcare.life. That's the number 9step.cultureofcare.life, not .com. And basically you'll get our entire 9-step framework to hammering this thing out. It'll redirect you and you'll get access to our Facebook group where I have like 200 videos. The stuff inside of our free group is better than most paid courses. So you not only get the free 9-step, but you get a lot of other learning material as well.
And I just threw that in the chat as well for everybody, just so you can see that that website and access that as well. And I'll pop it up on the screen here real quickly as well for everybody to see that. Well, we thank you for sharing that with everybody, Chandler. I appreciate that, and I know there's a wealth of knowledge in that for sure. Frank, anything else before we get out of here, man? This has been awesome for me.
Well,
wow.
I mean, as always, before I ask my final question here, I just want to thank you for hopping on. This has been awesome. I am such a big proponent of listening that I just appreciate the fact. I think you're probably the first guest who has come on this show that specifically had a moment that wanted to talk about listening, and I think it's so important when you're talking about people's biggest day, right? Like that's the biggest day of their lives up to that point. Most of the time is their wedding day, and to not take the time to listen properly when you're on that phone call with them, learning about them. I think is just you're just missing the mark when you do that. So I just want to thank you for hopping on the show and dropping all this knowledge. Okay, so my final question. So I saw the cover to the YouTube video or the social media stuff, and your hair, man, totally different,
Yeah,
right? And
exactly.
no beard. So I got to know, like, is it COVID hair and you've kept it? Was it something that you decided to do before then? Like, what's the story with the hair?
Okay, so my significant other, Steph, one day she was like, "Hey, maybe you should try your hair longer," because I've always had that like high and tight, short hair, no beard, like Marine Corps cut kind of. And I was like, maybe I will. This will be fun. So I start growing this beard. I start growing my hair, and then one day she goes, "Wow, this is getting serious," because it's like I've got a literal top knot now that kind of grows. And she was like, maybe you should cut it. And I was like, nope. I'm the kind of guy. And I told you in the beginning, I'm an obsessive biochemist. I'm all in or I'm all out. And I am all in at this point. This hair, who knows? This might be a 10-year process. This might grow forever. I'm learning how to trim my beard. I'm using sea salt spray in my hair. She's teaching me. A lot of people make fun of guys. They're like, hey, does your girlfriend do your hair? And I'm like, well, technically she's teaching me how right now. So it's like a whole new world and I'm obsessed with it.
Man, I got to be honest with you. I love it because maybe what, like 3 years ago, somewhere early in COVID, my beard was like, I'm talking like big down to here. And at that point, I was balms and oils and butters and brushes and combs, and I was doing and I had a straightener. I was trying to do everything to like keep it nice and organized. I was also growing my hair out. I finally gave up on growing the hair out. So now it's just this, right? But it was getting long. But I'm like you. Up until about 16, I just would boom high and tight, like you said, and just a goatee for me. And yeah, so I saw your picture, and then I saw you talking, and I was like, no, I got to know the story behind the hair.
Yeah, it's so fun. There's so many good stories. I mean, I don't know if we have time for a story, but I had the
Yes,
moment
go
of my
ahead.
life. So
Yeah, do
okay,
it.
so this was amazing. I'm still like my little girl. We gave a name, my jacket a name for this. So I hope everybody's ready for this fun story. So I'm sitting there, we're driving. We just had an oil change, and the check oil light pops up, and I'm like, all right, well, apparently they didn't even change the oil. So we pull into the to O'Reilly Auto Parts, and I have to go in and get some oil. I'm in line. I get my oil, and this guy's next to me, and he's like, I have a pink jacket on, and I have my hair up like this, so like a man bun basically. And so the guy's looking at me and staring at me, and I'm like, this is weird. And I just look away. I'm like, all right, I'm not going to fight with the guy in the auto parts store. So I check out and then I leave, and he goes back and gets a bunch more stuff. He's like in these ripped jeans. He's got like a Carhartt on. He looks like he works hard for a living. And so I'm in the back of my car. We have a Subaru. My little girl's in the back, steps up front, my significant other. And so I start going over to put oil in the truck. The guy comes out and he looks at me. And remember, I have a jacket with pink sleeves on. It's like a Patagonia jacket, blue and pink sleeves, man bun. I look like the biggest hipster in front of the auto parts store. And this guy looks at me and he says something. And I look back and I was like, are you okay? Do you need any help? And he goes, say something again and I'll come over there. And I was like, what? This guy wants to fight me and I don't know why. And I'm really intrigued, but I don't want to get into a fight. So I'm like, all right, have a good day. Let him walk off. And then he gets in his truck. And so I'm done putting oil in. I'm closing the trunk of our car. He pops out his window. And keep in mind, this is a work truck with the address and phone number and contractor number on it. And so he pops out his window and he goes, gender fluid, gender fluid. And I was like, oh, he doesn't like my hair and my man bun. And he's calling, I'm getting gentrified right now. Or what do you say? He doesn't like the fact that I have these things. And now he's yelling it as he drives away in his work truck with the phone number. And I was like, this is the most magical day of my life. So now my little girl goes, what does gender fluid mean, Daddy? So we have to have this talk about what gender fluid means. And now we call my pink jacket gender fluid. So we'll leave the house and she'll go, don't forget gender fluid, Daddy.
Oh my gosh,
That is awesome.
that's
It was
hilarious.
the greatest event of my life. And a tribute to the fact that I'm level headed and don't care. But like now I look back, I'm like, this is the best story. It's literally the best thing ever.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's so funny how right, like things like that did a lot of stuff like that just didn't even happen years and years ago, right? Like
Exactly.
it would have been a totally different approach. And now so many people are, so much more knowledgeable about like diversity and inclusivity and such. But then of course that also means that there are more people that fall on the other side that are going to be like that person was that day. And yeah, I'm excited to see the jacket. I'm gonna have to like follow you on Instagram
Yeah.
or Facebook or something. I got to see a picture.
There's a post on Facebook where I'm like standing up on a rock and I wrote this whole thing out in like a little copy piece. and you'll see it, like beautiful pink jacket and everything, man bun in. So check it out on
That's
my,
awesome.
on my Facebook page. Maybe it's on my
Nice.
Instagram too.
That is so awesome. Chandler, I'm gonna ask you real quick because I like Frank, I'm big into this listener stuff, and I've said publicly, and I tell Frank all the time privately that I've learned so much from him and his listening skills, and he's taught me so much from them. And I know that earlier when you were talking about the 5 levels of a listener, that it jumbled up a little bit. So I really, if you don't mind, I just want to make sure that we can get that on the recording of those 5 different levels so that they can be identified as maybe where you are right now and where you like to be, which we obviously know we want you to be at a level 5, but to really define and look at where you are right now so you know where you need to get to.
Yeah, basically. So level 1 is ignoring. So someone's talking, you're just not, you're gone. You're off in outer space, or you just don't care and you're not paying attention. So that's level 1, basically ignoring. Level 2 is where I'm in a position where I'm pretend listening. Pretend listening is like I'm on Instagram and scrolling and someone's next to me talking. I'm like, yeah, yeah, that makes sense. Yep. And then they ask me a question. I'm like, wait, what did you say? Because I'm basically not listening, but I'm pretending that I am. Then we move into level 3, which is listening only to respond. And a good example of this is like a political environment. So someone says something that's opposed to your political beliefs, and you say, you're stupid. Here's why. I'm smart. You're dumb. You have bad hair. I can read better. And so your only response and your only purpose in that response is to respond. You don't know what the other person said. Then level 4 is listening, where you're actually aware, you're actually paying attention, you're actually engaged in the conversation, but you're still kind of in your own point of view. Then level 5 listening is where we step outside of our own hearts, we step outside of our own soul, we step outside of our own brain, and we step into the person on the other side. And we really try to understand their model of the world. We try to understand where they came from. We try to understand why they're saying the things they say by being inquisitive. And that ultimately moves us into this empathetic level of understanding that we are, in fact, part of that person's life at this point.
Ooh, love it. Thank you. I definitely want to make sure we got that on the recording for people to listen back to, because that's important to really assess yourself where you're at. I like to think I'm probably like a middle level 4, and I'd love to see myself moving closer and closer to a 5, and that allows me to know the areas that I need to get into to get to that point. Sometimes I think I find myself drifting down to a 3 sometimes too, but I'm not big on politics usually, so I'm not going to talk about politics to people. But to your point, I do think that I've definitely found myself guilty of, you're almost like,
yeah, I want to respond.
You're waiting for them to stop talking so you
exactly.
can talk. And then sometimes you realize that like what you have to say is so damn irrelevant that you should have just left it alone, because it almost takes the conversation in a completely different direction that it didn't need to. Whereas if you were just listening to what they were saying and not programming, but digesting what they were saying, then your responses would have been a little bit more educated, a little bit more sensitive to the conversation, and would have made a lot more sense. Even if you don't reach that level 5, but at least you understand what this person is talking about.
Exactly. And it's like when you're talking to your significant other, they're like, hey, I just went to Target and I bought this dress and I bought these things for our daughter and I bought this thing. And you're like, oh yeah, I like the donuts from Target. No context. I didn't listen to anything you said, but all I wanted to do was respond about how I like donuts from Target. There's zero connection on our conversation. And I just showed you that I didn't care about anything you said. All I heard was Target, donuts, respond, robotic.
Now I just want donuts.
There you go. There you go.
What did we even spend the last hour talking about?
Now, what's your favorite donut?
Ooh, yeah.
Right.
Frank, you got a favorite?
Yeah, custard filled.
Oh yeah, Bavarian cream, 100%.
Yeah,
Boston cream for me.
Boston cream
for me. Yep.
Yeah.
Well, hey Chandler, thanks a lot, man. This has been great. We really appreciate you taking the time to jump on with us. For those of you that are watching or listening to the replay, don't forget to go to 9step.cultureofcare.life. That 9 is the number 9, not the word. So once again, that's 9step.cultureofcare.life. I'll get it right this time around. 9step.cultureofcare.life. There you go. Go to that website and you can find out more information about the program. Chandler, is there anything else that we want to leave the listeners with before we say goodnight to you?
I think the last thing I have to say is everything that we do forces us to face our fears, communicating, talking, selling. And I think a part of growth and a part of life is recognizing that sometimes the hard things are the things that we really need to do. And sometimes listening to people and respecting their opinion is the hardest thing we can do in our lives. And I think the thing you can take away from this is everybody's right. Nobody's wrong. There is no right or wrong. Everybody is coming from an understanding and a model of the world of what they grew up in. And in their mind, they are correct. So even if you believe you're right, you might not be in that person's mind. And guess what? That's okay. And the second you recognize and understand that is the second that you can actually create influence in other human beings.
So powerful.
I love it.
Yeah, so powerful. Everybody's right and nobody's wrong. Man, I love that. Wow.
Exactly.
Chandler, hang out with us if you don't mind. We're gonna sign off. But if you can hang out for just a second, we'll sign off from the live, and we just want to say a few last thank yous before you after we get off live. So thank you everybody for watching and joining us. And if you're listening to the replay, thank you for putting up with my stumbling, bumbling tonight. I don't know what's going on with me. Maybe whatever happened to my leg is affecting my mouth. I have no idea, but I appreciate you putting up with me tonight. Frank, you don't even know this, but you're about to find out right now. We're taking a 2-week hiatus. So we will be back in 2 weeks. And I'll explain to you why when we get off live, Frank. But we'll be back in 2 weeks. So take some time to maybe go back and listen to or watch some of the past episodes, get caught up. I'm telling you, there is a wealth of information, and we can't take responsibility for it. It is 100% our guests and the people that join us. And we are so fortunate to have the people that join us on the show. So thank you, Chandler, for being here tonight. Everybody else, have a great week. Have a great few weeks. We will text you guys on our text club and let you know when the next live show is going to be. Frank, thanks a lot, bud.
Yep.